welcome. Welcome to Let's Chat About Combat. Is everyone having a good RuneFest so far? Awesome stuff. So I am your host. I'm the RSGuy, and I'm joined by the entirety of the RuneScape 3 combat team. So I'm joined by mods Sponge, Ramen, Ryan, and Pigeon. Ordered by DPS, but I won't tell you if it's that way or that way. Yeah, I don't know if you would like to do just a brief introduction of who you are, what you do. You can start there, and then we'll move on to talking about some of the things that we know a lot of people in the audience are very interested in, and then we'll plan to take as many audience questions as we possibly can.
Yeah, so I'm Mod Sponge. I work on bosses, rewards, combat redesigns, and kind of everything combat. At the moment, I'm kind of behind the shadows, just helping everyone with design. But yeah, that's me.
Hello, I'm Mod Ramen. I joined JX 12 years ago, and in my first month, Mod Chris L turned around to me and asked what I thought about Vorago. Ever since then, Vorago mentioned, ever since then I've just taken an interest in bosses. He taught me a lot, and then once he left, some big shoes to fill. Enjoyed stepping in, and here we are today.
Yeah, I'm Mod Ryan. Also joined around the same time Ramen did. Was once a skiller, but now a PvMer. When I designed Rapture back in 2019, straight after I was like, I should probably get good at combat, and then I've been spending the time since then to be where I am today. Designer of all things at Sponge is also a designer of rewards, mechanics, bosses, systems, stuff like that.
Good afternoon. So I'm Mod Pigeon. Most recently at Combat Mastery Achievements, but Sanctum of Rebirth before that.
Hands up if you like Combat Mastery achievements. There you go.
I'm very glad.
Thank you.
I started off on Unwelcome Guests, so I think as much as I tried to avoid it at the beginning, I basically just started in combat and couldn't get away, so here I am. But yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. So I think the first thing that a number of people have come up to me and already asked about if we were going to discuss, but Amascut, excited about the keynote and the reveal yesterday. Is everyone excited about Amascut? Yeah. So I have a question for Mods Ramen and Mod Ryan. Amascut's meant to be hard. How do you design something that is difficult with how good RuneScape players are at the top end and how many tools that they have to output so much damage, mitigate so much damage? What's that going to look like?
So over the years, we've done a fair few bosses, right? A boss a year at this point. Every time we do something hard, the players really prove us wrong by bringing just different strategies, right? But there are a lot of problems with elements of RuneScape, Cade Intercept, Devo Intercept. Some of the problems we had back with Solak was when you design a mechanic, right? And then you sort of forget about things like resonance, right? So players, the mechanic comes out and then player just goes, whoop, pops up a shield and just uses defensive. Defensives are still super, super strong. So when we came to Zamorak, we were like, we got to do something about this, because if we are having a boss that ranges from 0 enrage to 60k enrage, we can't just have Cade being super busted all the way through. It's just the same boring strategy. So we came up with defensive penetration. So we look at that. We look at all the previous bosses. We've spoken a lot about things that Vorago does. Vorago mentioned again. Red Bomb, where it sort of just knocks all your defenses offline. We go back and forth in this, whether it's good to give player their toolkit and allow them to adapt, but take little bits of it away. You should never take the whole thing away, because then it's just like, what are we doing here? So we're going to look at everything, all the strategies you're doing. So if you've got videos out there, maybe take them down. There's certain things we can't go back and really change, because it will fundamentally break a lot of things. Like if we fix Devo Intercept, if we fix Cade Intercept, how does that affect people being able to do 60k Zami today? So we'll look at what we can change. We'll look at what we can introduce. New mechanics. Defensive pen was, again, one. Prayer penetration, one. But mostly, we're just going to bring it to you in mechanics and see how mechanically gifted you all are.
Yeah, I mean, I can add to that and say we will not be able to do a mask ourselves. It is at least something we're going to make sure, because if we can do it, we're good. Minus, maybe, nah. No, we're good, but we don't want to be able to do it. If we can do it, it's not good enough. It's not hard enough, especially for the special mode that we mentioned in the keynote yesterday. We definitely used to do this a lot more with bosses. I remember when Ramen mentioned Vorago. Again, why do we mention Vorago so much? But we couldn't do Vorago during testing at the time. And we were like, or even if we got close, Chris was like, harder. Because if we know we can do it, then we know it's not hard enough. With hard mode Necatra, I think we did do it. We definitely did do it, but we were saying that's what we wanted there. Whereas with Amascut, not to quote my keynote, but it's going to be RuneScape's biggest challenge yet. That's the aim. So if we even stand a chance of doing it, then back to the office and make it harder.
Sweet. So I take it looks like Amascut defensive penetration is going to be a thing probably in some capacity. So don't expect a Devo to every single mechanic.
Yeah, I think as well, Mod Ramen did something really good with Carapac when you devote, and I think you can do the Carapac line. What does Carapac say when you use devotion?
Your godly devotion won't save you here.
Perfect.
It's way better in the actual game.
And so we can look at things with Amascut, and such as using the Intercept Cade example. It may be that
Your Cade Intercept won't help you here.
perfect. He answered it for me.
That's, I think for a lot of the PvM players who are looking for a challenge, have been looking for that next great challenge. I've heard from a lot of players already that it's like, we want something like Solak release. We want something like Vorago release again. And is that sort of something that has been brought to mind and something that you're thinking about when designing this boss?
Absolutely. Both fantastic release days. It's cool to see players throw themselves at something. Whether the base mode will be that difficult is another question, right? We want this to be accessible once it unlocks, right? So we have the creative freedom, especially with the, what do we call it on stage yesterday? Just
Special mode.
special. Yeah. We're calling it special mode. We haven't given it a name yet. But because that is dropping first, we can really pump that up, right? That can be super, super difficult. That's the day one race. And then once that unlocks, some of the, let's call them little Timmies out there, they'll come along and they'll be able to sort of throw themselves at it. Again, normal mode will have the resurrection system. So, but because we're releasing day one, special mode, we're just gonna absolutely wipe the floor with you.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity just to add on here that doing that mode, although it, say, for example, it needs to be at least an hour before they do it. And yeah, hopefully at least 6 hours maybe, who knows. The opportunity for those players that really want that challenge is there, while also not taking away from everyone else. You will find like a lot of people, maybe you're even at work, by the time you get home from a work day, those who've taken the day off for the race have probably beaten it. It gives us the opportunity to like deliver on that. The audience that really want that challenge, they want to take the fight to us, to the game, while also not taking away from the update as a whole, which is why, as Ramen mentions, it's kind of a spectrum of difficulty. We're going to nail the hard part and then scale it down and allow you to still, go in normal mode and take Pigeon with you.
Would you say it's a good possible way to describe it as imagining if Zamorak had been released at like 2,000% enrage or something as the first kill, and then once that was done, everything else unlocked, or is that a not
4,000.
4,000, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. The way I've spoken to people on the forum about it is Zamorak 4,000, 2,000, right, is a challenge, right? But the problem with the plus 10% enrage at a time is you learn the fight, you get better at the fight as you're slowly building up to that 4K. But by the time you got to that 4K, you've done the same thing for X amount of kills. So if we had dropped 4K day one, it would have been a whole different thing.
I'm very excited. Can't wait to see who ends up clearing it first. And
Not you.
Oh, it will not be me. I know that. Not you either, though. So
True.
Anyone in the crowd excited to take part in that race as an actual player? Are you going to take part in it? And how many of you are going to watch it? So, thank you.
as soon as you ask that, the PvMe owners both go, I'll be part of the race.
Make sure you send me my invite.
Yeah, I'll be looking for mine too. I think a little pivot before we do some more audience questions. I think there have been a lot of questions about Masterwork passive, and there was a mention in the keynote yesterday about something happening with the Fractured Staff of Armadyl and the exit kill. Is there anything we can share about that?
Buff magic. No, so yeah, I don't want to spoil too much because not everything's set in stone. But it's clear that you guys want the Pessoa to feel epic again. It's clear that you want the Exekill to feel epic at all. And we've really taken that to heart. That along with what legendary or masterwork weapons, I forget what we called it. We want, we have these items in game. We want people to use them. Right now, there's not much reason to use them, so we want to give them their use cases. And then along with that, improve the things that are supposed to be these magical, epic weapons. We don't have designs super set in stone. We know roughly what we want to do with them. But as an example, I'm saying example lightly, what would happen if we moved the Exekill special attack over to the Masterwork Spear, so it's all in one, and then just completely redo the Exekill, make it like the bonk sword, you hit hard, it does what it says on the tin, it's just an epic flaming sword, and really delivering on its design. Yeah, so nothing super set in stone, but we really want to do the weapons justice.
Awesome. Very excited. Follow up to that. How do you
Pigeon,
feel?
did
Oh,
you wanna
jump
add
in.
to that?
Yeah,
Sorry.
go for it.
I don't have much to add to that, but I am looking at that now. So I'll probably be putting something out in the next probably couple of weeks to gather feedback. Just make sure we're happy with it, you're happy with it, you're the people using it.
Perfect. So keep your eyes out for that. Here's a question for the group. How do we feel about the Sliske anima core thing?
We don't like it, no. So Sponge said buff magic, and I was on Reddit yesterday, and someone's like, they love magic because it's like 110 crafting's doing magic stuff, 110 runecrafting did magic spells. We mentioned magic power armor yesterday. I'm pretty sure magic's gonna be buffed.
It's Karapak again.
It's gonna be very strong, I think. Wait, what was the question? Oh yes, sorry, apologies. Yes, so yeah, Tuskers is not where we want it to be. Sliske.
Well, it's
Well,
both.
it's Tuskers.
It's
the
Tuskers
passive
into
effect,
Sliske.
Yeah. It's not where we want it to be. It's not the sort of item we want you high-level players to be using for Magic. Of course, everyone brings up Tectonic and says, make Tectonic useful. Tectonic will be more useful with the Temporal Anomaly spell that comes out tomorrow. Go play Runecrafting tomorrow. But we don't necessarily want to solve it by just making power armor better. We should probably take something away from Sliske's. Now, of course, people will probably think, oh no, don't take away my crit. We'll probably move it around. We'll find a way to basically put it elsewhere. It shouldn't be on that armor. That armor should not be the best in slot at that tier. At the end game, we'd rather move the effects around. Tier 95 magic power armor from Amascut will be very good. You will use that.
Did we specify it was tier 95?
We did now?
If we didn't, I did now, yeah.
No.
We did.
We definitely didn't.
No, we did.
Nah. Who's got my script? Someone out there.
Surely that was in the script.
It's tier 95.
Of note, just to add to that, again, it's not definitely going to happen. We have been talking about what happens if we just bump up Elite Tectonic to tier 95 as part of that. We feel like tier 92 armor is kind of in this weird state where it's like, why is it not just tier 95? I think you can look at most tier 92s as like, why does this exist? They're just weird middle parts that, they're just odd. So just something we are considering is like, do we just buff it up to 95, maybe give it an effect, maybe just move things around, and just make the whole system more enjoyable to play around with?
Yeah, the comparison there as well for reference is well, I was about to give a reference, but it's the Dracolich. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Yeah, so Dracolich is about creating armor sets that we don't need the tier 92s. They could be tier 95s. They have different purposes, like Elite Ceramic versus a Dracolich, or Havoc versus some other melee armor we add at some point. Sorry, buff melee?
One person wants melee buffed.
Yeah, the
Delete
two
melee?
people clapping for melee.
Delete or buff? I'm hearing more delete, but I'll decide when we're back in the office.
Surely spin a wheel or something. Just delete buff, wherever it lands. One more Amascut related question. It was announced in the keynote yesterday that there will also be a 2-tile range melee weapon coming out. Are we excited about that?
What if it were 3? No, that's not happening. It's not happening.
So what was the thinking on coming out with that as a reward?
Yeah, so I don't know how much we talk about. I mean, we talk a lot about design. I'm sure if anyone's seen us, we talk too much, probably. Say too many things, say things we probably shouldn't, but we just love what we do. When it comes to this weapon design, the idea here is that not every weapon we release needs to be the best in slot for everything. So you take like a Bow of the Last Guardian, that is the legendary weapon to own for range, right? Like it is the build. Whereas the sword / lance / halberd, the two-handed melee weapon from Amascut, the idea here is that it's a meta item, a meta weapon for certain things, so AoE, right? It's not going to be good against a single target like a boss. It's purposeful. So we want to do more of that where we have good weapons for different use cases. Of course, you can think this is going to be your Nox Scythe upgrade. Someone did say to me, oh, you're devaluing the Nox Scythe. And I was like, 10 years old. Like, it's probably okay now, right? But yeah, so the purposeful there is to basically make an upgrade to the Nox Scythe. Because it'll be tier 95, it will mean it will fall into like the legendary weapon categories. So you can expect like passive and special attack. It will be the melee AoE weapon. And I did have some conversations with some people on the floor yesterday. This is on topic. When we did release Raksha with Greater Ricochet and Greater Chain, a lot of people slept on Greater Ricochet. Not Greater Ricochet, definitely didn't sleep on that one. We were asleep when we balanced that one the first time. They slept on Greater Chain and Divert. And in the modern sort of RuneScape now, people want Greater Chain and they want Divert. They have uses. So in a lot of cases, we design for the future. You might not necessarily see the future yet. So people might be thinking, oh, you know, why do we need another weapon like this? Slayer is already fine, but maybe bosses in the future, combat encounters in the future might encourage us as designers to make more, you know, more minions, more mobs. You've got Threads of Fate, you've got Greater Chain, give melee buff melee, right?
Okay, I think we're ready for some audience questions. How do we feel about that? If anyone has a question, feel free to raise a hand. We can start right up there at the front, and I'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. If you want to just keep your hand up as well, a microphone will be transported to you.
Yeah, so I feel like I need to preface this with I am an eternal noob and I'm not very good at PvM, but I do enjoy it. One of the things that I really like about Necromancy is how I feel it's got a really unique identity with the soul sap and necrosis, where you're draining the power from the enemies and throwing it back at them with the volley and things. Necromancy obviously goes up to 120, where the other styles don't. When you eventually look at putting the other styles up to 120, are you looking at different mechanics like that to give melee a different identity to ranged, and ranged make them feel different to the other styles?
That's the hope, yeah. When it comes to that point where we're up in the combat styles, there's a lot of the core of a lot of the styles that is just jank, right? Why in Magic can I not impact rack? That doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of core fundamental issues. There's a lot of identity issues, like Magic is just kind of doing everything as fireballs, but then there's just random magical beams. Can we kind of hone that in, make it all look better, make it all feel better? So I want to say, like, yes, but it's when we get to that point.
Yeah, I think just to downplay, well, not expectation, but to settle it a little in the sense that there's probably multiple updates there. There's the case of we could I say just, don't quote me, but just increase the combat styles to 120 so they inherit the accuracy that Necromancy has, and that could just be, to normalize them all so that we're on sort of an even playing field, so to speak. But then when it comes to reworking the styles, there is a lot to consider. To Sponge's point, Necromancy we built from the ground up. We learnt from, Melee has, does anyone know how many abilities Melee has in this room?
Too many.
That is the right answer, because I actually don't know how many, but it is too many. It's a lot. And I know that Mod Rhubarb's, not to make everyone turn around and find him, but he's in the room. He's big combat nerd, big mathematician, helps us a lot with data. And he has a big list of all the abilities that are used in the game and what are used the most, and some of the worst abilities are used the most. And it's just sort of those are the things we'd want to clean up as well.
Love Slice.
Slice, yeah, exactly. Slice is one of the most used melee abilities. So we want to clean that up because that's partly why you might enjoy Necromancy, is because it doesn't have some of these problems. So people feel like they're more impactful, what they're doing makes more sense. If you pick up a different style after, a lot of the problems your experiences are with the styles. It's not that, in some cases, Necromancy is too good. It's actually the opposite with the other styles. You just hinder yourself by doing the wrong thing. Sorry, long-winded answer. But yeah, we'd like to make the other styles more modernized. It's kind of our key word, or has been in recent years. But it takes time. And we also have to take a big awareness about the high-level audience, because there's a lot of skill expression as well that we don't want to just remove.
Awesome. Any other questions? We can, so we'll go over to the right-hand side. We'll go second row right over there.
Hello. How do you guys feel about the state of crossbows in the game at the moment?
You use range. Go on. You use range?
Used to use range. I needed Bow of the Last Guardian no. I do need a Bow of the Last Guardian before I can probably comment on that. But I think we had the crossbow meta for a long time. Then we moved to the bow meta. We're definitely in the bow meta right now. There's nothing. We have nothing against crossbows. I think that combat isn't ever, evolving. I don't know what you call that. I don't know what I'm actually imitating. Flavor of the month is a term that gets thrown around. Once upon a time, melee was. Once upon a time, that sounds like a long time ago. Melee was really the dominant thing, and then Magic had its period, and now range is in its period. But it's obviously arrow-based. I don't really have a good answer other than we just haven't gone back to looking at crossbows right now. It's just not an important thing.
So it basically comes down to whenever we release a new reward, right? If we release a super OP set of bolts, right, what would you use? Probably crossbows. So as we said, it's a term we use. Flavor of the year, flavor of the month. Everything goes through metas, rotations. You can look at any other game, right? Sometimes a best gun will be used for this year, and then this new gun comes along in this FPS shooter, and that's the best gun. So you've got to look at sort of RuneScape in the same way. I'm sure we will bring out some new bolts, not confirmed, that will bring sort of, 1095 crossbows, whatever. I want to see unload being used. That's such a cool anim, but no one ever uses it, so rework unload. But yeah, it just comes down to whenever we want to bring out a new set of rewards, are we bored of seeing you just using Bow of the Last Guardian? And then we go from there.
Well, thank you.
We can take a question. The gentleman in the third row.
Hi guys, thank you. So my question is, when it comes to rewards going forward in bosses, is hard mode always going to have an item that normal mode can't? And the reason I ask that is I struggle with hand-eye coordination. So sometimes normal mode is even hard mode for me, in all honesty. And I'm a bit gutted because I know that as much as I try, I can never do the hard mode. But I would still like some of these items, but without taking hard mode away, because it's brilliant for a whole load of people. But hard mode's different for everyone. So is there a way that you could look at where, say, after so many more counts on a normal mode, and I mean a lot, then they could get a drop, someone could get a drop on normal mode. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Yeah. Thank you.
Just a question back at you. Is the issue that you can't get the item, say, for example, for the collection log, is that where like the problem lies? Or is it, are you an Iron Man so you can't trade?
No. So it's just purely we're just wanting to be able to get the reward at the end, just like everyone else can.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tricky problem. I understand the issue there. We went through phases, right, where we had, I'll use the Karapak as a good example, where the weapon was hard mode locked.
Yeah.
With Sanctum, we locked the Genesis shard, which the intention there was not everyone shouldn't feel like they need that. It's like a bonus. It's like an extra. But understandably, you still want to get it. It is a tricky one because if we keep everything on normal mode, sorry, I know you weren't suggesting that, but if we keep everything on normal mode, what's the incentive to do hard mode? But understandably, we could probably find a line. It's just tricky because on a single sample player, even if we said do 1,000 kills and now you can get the drop, if everyone in the game was guaranteed a drop after 1,000 normal mode kills, there's actually more come into the game than you probably think and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone has an additional answer. It's a tricky problem, much as unfortunately our design lives is very tricky, especially with combat.
I'm sure. Thank you.
I think it's just like it's a delicate balance. Like it's something we can do more of. Like we tried it to an extent with Sanctum, which didn't turn out great, where normal mode was too generous, arguably, but actually it was hard mode was too generous. But there is a mixture, a delicate balance there of we can give you these things in normal mode, but they're going to be so giga rare so that we dissuade players only doing normal mode. That it's like, is that just going to create loads of frustration where you can't, the item's there, but you can't get at it? But no, I definitely appreciate the feeling, and it's something I think we'll take back and think on, really. But yeah, it's just really hard balance to get that right.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. But coming from my own personal view in that regard, even if it was some crazy number like you were saying, and it was giga rare, it's still having that chance to be able to get it, even in the long run. So if you take that feedback, that's much appreciated.
So like the Nihil 1 in a million Zari bow.
Yes,
I'll
still take
I'll
it.
sort you out.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
When they went live, for reference, I'm pretty sure someone literally got it within like the first 5 minutes of release, which goes to show you the sheer amount of players playing and doing the content.
No, good thought, good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go the third row right there.
Slightly different subject, going back to your boss. Vorago changes its mechanics periodically. Will this new boss, will you be doing that, or are you just going to give us the same thing every week?
So are you referring to the weekly rotations?
Yes.
Probably not. Weekly rotations is cool. That was very much a Chris thing. Funnily enough, he was at my house the other day whilst I was fixing a Vorago bug, and I made him sit down and look at it. I went, look at what you've done. 10 years later, still fixing this thing. But yeah, it was very much a Chris thing, and we've discussed it a lot. Again, referring to mod rhubarbs, like we have a lot of data on boss engagement on a daily basis, and you just see a Raxor go whoop, whoosh, whoop, whoosh. You see Vorago do exactly the same thing. Like, it can be good, but it's not something we're looking at for this one.
Yeah, I think, actually, tell you what, I will add more to that question after, but I'd rather more questions get asked, if that's okay.
Okay. We'll go
Come find me straight
fourth row on the left-hand side there, in the white shirt.
Hey. So my question is, for the past few years, we've gotten more abilities, or like upgraded abilities, but they've mainly been basic abilities. And the last threshold, I think, was Flurry, which was a long time ago. So do you have any plans on making new ultimate abilities or thresholds abilities?
I'd say it's not like off the cards. It depends how you define threshold and ultimate. I think we can look at Necro, and one of the things we liked is having abilities that just have a fixed amount. They don't have the weird intricacies that the others do. But absolutely not against it at all. We kind of did upgraded ultimates light with Zuck, with the capes. That was, for all intents and purposes, just a greater Omni, a greater Overpower, etc. So it's definitely on the cards.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, I can add to that. I think it's worth looking at like thresholds as they are really strong. Like if you think about the amount of adrenaline they cost, an ultimate, or your average ultimate, like Overpower, the other one, very strong. If we were to make that stronger, like Flurry when it came out, that was very weak. So Greater Flurry kind of gave it a place. I think ultimates probably would be more likely, but there's nothing against getting a threshold greater. Like you said earlier, maybe greater unload. Ever?
No, just fix unload.
I think there's a side point there of we have a load of thresholds and a load of ultimates, and a load of them are really janky or just like the damage isn't there. So it's like we could just make it a greater, or we could fix the issue and maybe do a greater as well. But I think the primary there would be fix the issues rather than just upping the numbers.
Yeah, it's also just we don't go, oh, we're just doing basics. It just so happens we've mainly done basics for reference.
Greater divert.
Great decade set.
Divert's greater resonance, so.
Fair point. We can go over to the right-hand side in the back in the checkered shirt.
Of course, there's a lot of hands, and we probably don't
Yeah.
have too much time, but we will all be available after this.
Yes, there's a campfire, I believe. Is that
There is a
correct?
combat
Yes.
campfire. Perfect. We are there, actually.
Yes, and we will be there and answering more questions as well.
So going back to the earlier question about hand-eye coordination, is there going to be a thing with people with eyesight issues? So going also back to Vorago with Teen Split, colour blindness, then also reducing screen clutter with all the summons and stuff and being able to hide other people's summons?
Really good question. Yes, is the answer. We definitely need to look at that. I know that using... Sorry, I can't see you in the crowd, so apologies. So I know in the past we've done like Telos, colorblind changes per boss, right? With Telos, etc. I think ultimately we need to look at like a better colorblind option for the game. Of course, there is... I know high contrast mode can help with certain things, but understandably, yeah, we need to look more into it. The Conjures one is a great example. Not going to divert the responsibility, but I need some support from the platform team to make changes there. It's not something in our control as a design team, but understandably, yeah, I don't know if anyone's played like a Diablo, but they have their spirits, they sort of like ghostify for everyone else so that you can see them well, but you other players, they barely see them at all. That's sort of the thing we would like to look at. Not on the cards right now, because it's not my team, so I don't want to commit other people's work.
I remember doing the Combat Mastery Beastmaster times. It's 10 players, so it's 50 players and conjurers standing on the same tile, and it's awesome.
It's kind of nuts, though. Yeah, I agree.
We can go second row in the middle there.
Hello. Can we talk about the Amascut enrage system? Is it going to be the typical 0 to 4K, 10% at a time, or is there anything unique coming with Amascut?
It's going to be 1% at a time. No. Can I talk about this? I'll just do a quick bit. Couple of things. So we're still working on Amascut right now, so what we've announced is a great opportunity now for you guys to get involved, to give us feedback, give us thoughts, so we can evolve the designs and the development. But we've learned a lot from Enrage, quoting Mod Ramen's keynote, and we know that there are, Ramen kind of mentioned it at the beginning actually, with the percentage climbing. Ideally, we think that we know there are key beats, 0%, 500%, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, for example, that we would like to consider just giving you those as modes. For example, let's just say normal mode is 0, hard mode is 500, 1,000 is Enrage 1, 2,000 is Enrage 2, and we could lock them behind each other, so you have to do each one, but then you get like a meaningful jump, mechanics and damage. It's not like that small increments. That's the Amascut thing, but while we're here, Pigeon, I don't know if you want to talk about maybe Enrage issues with like Zamorak and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm specifically looking at Zamorak at the moment, but I know with Combat Mastery, one of the things players came up with a lot was, or I say players, you came up with a lot, was that if you didn't already have, say, 4K Zamorak, we made a Grandmaster achievement for it. I think it was Grandmaster. If you didn't have it, that's a long grind. I think somebody said it was like 100 hours. Don't quote me on that. Assuming you get every kill perfectly. That's a long time, and I think, if I remember right, is it 10% per kill?
It's 10.
Yeah.
10%.
I had a player come up to me yesterday and go, oh, I'm pissed at you. I'm like, what have I done? She's like, yeah, I just spent 2.5 years doing 60k Zamorak. And it's like, why is that? It's like, yeah, 10% at a time. It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I kind of looked at like more complex things, like maybe, I probably shouldn't say, but like, what if every consecutive kill gave you like more enrage, sort of like a pseudo streaking system? It got very complicated very quick. It's like what happens when you log out, yada, yada, yada. I think what we kind of should do is something simple, like just increase the amount you get per kill. Like if it went from 10 to say 25, and then it halves the amount of time you take.
Would people like us to increase it to 25 for Zamorak from 10?
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, we should make it consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're looking at it. That's all we can say for now. I won't give a number.
But not 1% at a time.
Maybe 1% at a time.
Maybe 1% at a time.
Yeah, while we find another question, yeah, I think you could finally know. Sorry,
yeah, so we've got just
question.
a couple minutes left, but yeah, we can do some quick fire questions. If anyone would like, we can go to right up here. And yeah, we'll get to as many as we possibly can.
This involves, you were talking about fixing jank stuff like Deto. There's no reason, when you have a charged Deto, especially since we have cease, there's no reason why you would ever, when you click an ability, you would ever want it to be canceled. Could you just make it so that Deto triggers when you click an ability when it's charged?
We can, but I won't be liable for anyone that dies to Arax or Reflect. That is genuinely an issue that I'd be worried about. I think you can look at Deto as something that's like, it just feels very clunky in general, and there's just room for improvement there. So if we're going at Deto to fix that, we'd probably look at just cleaning up the ability, just purely as an example.
Okay, do you want to try to do one more quick question? We'll go over, I think I see Omid with his hand up over there on the left-hand side.
Not Omid.
we can humor Omid. Just this once.
Everyone stay seated for at least 10 minutes. It's going to be a complex question.
Sorry, guys, out of time.
Hello. What are your thoughts about guaranteeing a drop on the world first Amascut kill? And also raids 2N. Also buy diverts.
That's all we've got time for. Thank you very much. First question. Wait, which was the first one? You gave three.
The guaranteed Amascut drop on the first.
What do people in the audience think if we were to guarantee a rare drop?
Incentive.
Right, done. No. We'll go away. It sounds really good. I think we can look at it. It's definitely an encouragement to, maybe take part or just, I agree. It's an extra incentive.
No.
Why are we buying diverts?
PvMe told me. They paid me a lot.
Big divert is in the pockets of Omid. Okay, I think that's all the time we have for now, but please do come find us at the combat campfire coming out right after this.
Can I just ask, if everyone's okay, can we take a selfie as the combat team with the whole audience? Are you good with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice, let's
do it.
Oh, thank you as well to everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.